Welcome to the Raw Sport times Warwick Wolves NFL Fantasy Show for 2020. Another kind of bonus program we're doing ahead of the next academic year. For those who don't know, I am your Raw Head of Sport, Josh Sim. To my right is Jack South, who you're on both societies, Jack. You're the chief engineer for Raw, and was it the defensive end? Are you
defensive line for the Wolves.
Yes.
Yeah, I believe I'm the only member of both societies. So
there we go. Yeah, I remember we all had to guess your position last time when we did the draft show. So I'm glad I remembered. And then below me, I'll just remove that. Below, we've got Alex James. Alex, do you just want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Alex James. I'm just with the Wolves here. I haven't been involved with Raw before. I play quarterback, but I used to play receiver as well, but that seems to be done now. But yeah, I study history and politics. So yeah, that's me.
Yeah, and next to him, we've got Joe as well from the Wolves. Joe, just want to give a quick introduction.
Yeah, hi, I'm Joe. I'm Community and Welfare Secretary for the Wolves this year, and I also play free safety. So looking forward to the season ahead, whatever form it's in, really.
Yeah. Yeah, and what's kind of brought us all here together is that both societies are co-running an NFL Fantasy League. For those who don't know, and if you don't know what a fantasy league is, it's kind of like it's basically an online game where we all take players that are playing in real life, and based on their performances, we get points in the league and so on. I guess something unique to American sports is that a lot of the fantasy leagues have drafts, and so that's why we're all here. We're just gonna pop up the rules of the draft. The draft starts in 10 minutes, so we've just put the rules up here. And as you can see, the draft order has been randomized. So the order of which players are picking is random. So I think of the four of us, the highest entry is Alex with Fake Lem. You're pick number 4. Are you happy with pick number 4?
Yeah, it's been better than a lot of the other drafts I've done. Probably, in my opinion, the worst place to be is probably in the middle, just because you don't get a draft pick that's like that good in the next round. You're kind of mediocre the whole way through, basically. So yeah, being at the end or first is quite good.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess I'll ask Joe. Joe, in the draft order, I think you're 10th.
Yeah, I'm towards the end, but still kind of middle, I suppose.
And have you done many NFL fantasy drafts like ahead of the season? How experienced are you with the game?
I've done it for a few years in a row now. I think the first year I did it was last year at sixth form, so this is probably my 3rd or 4th year doing it now. I think the first time I did it, I had the number 2 pick. I completely wasted it because I had no idea what I was doing. I think I took some mediocre quarterback just because I knew the name.
No.
So now I think by this point, I think I should be a lot more experienced, hoping to not make the same mistakes again.
Yeah, and then Jack, look, you're on both camps, but you with the Wolves, you're using your NFL knowledge. I can't remember if we asked you previously, but did we say if you had a favorite team in the NFL? Did we get you to answer that question?
Yeah, it's got to be the Seahawks. It just can't be anyone else.
Yeah, okay. Well, there we go. I'm repping my Seahawks hat, so there we go. But so with that Seahawks fandom in mind, are you biased towards certain picks in this draft?
I might be picking Russell Wilson in like an early round and just panicking everyone. I think the Seahawks defense, I've had a look at some rankings. I think it's been underrated, so I think that might be an easy sweep. Yeah.
I'm not sure about the Seahawks.
I guess we. Are you okay? Wait, for those who don't know, Alex, Joe, what's your favorite teams? Who are your favorite teams, Phil?
So my favorite team is the Indianapolis Colts.
Yeah, and I'm the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Have been for probably 8 or 9 years now. I've been following them. So it's been a bit rough. It's looking like this season. Hopefully, it's going to turn up.
I love that you have to stress that for this season. Like you have to stress you've been a long time Buccaneers fan.
Yeah.
So you must be pretty happy with the.
Yeah. Have to make sure people don't just think you're hopping on the bandwagon.
Yeah, you must be pretty stoked with the way the off season, and we can discuss if players get picks. And I know certain Tom Brady will be lurking in the quarterback rankings later on. Guys, I mean, Alex, do you said you mentioned you've done a few NFL fantasy drafts this season. Is there a strategy? And I don't want you to give up your strategy by any means, but is there a certain strategy that you kind of favor for most of these?
I have a strategy. It is written down on a notepad next to me. So yeah, I mean there is a definite way to draft, in my opinion. But yeah, don't take quarterbacks early. That's the rule. Don't take quarterbacks early. Yeah. I did it last year, and I took Mahomes in the first round, and he dislocated his knee, and I had to start Jameis Winston, which wasn't great because he threw 30 touchdowns last season, but 30 interceptions. So yeah, it's not ideal to draft a quarterback first overall. You never know what's going to happen.
Yeah, so, yeah, and I think that's an important thing actually to note, because everyone knows the quarterback being the marquee position everyone talks about, the match winner if you like. But yeah, it's interesting to know that in this game, and maybe Jack or Joe, one of you could explain to me why is it? I mean, is it just this? I guess it's due to the scoring reasons, but how come it's running backs and wide receivers are the ones that tend to be the most popular picks in this game rather than a quarterback?
Well, I don't. Yeah. Do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. The running backs here get points for receiving and rushing, so they basically get at least as many points as a lot of wide receivers plus all the rushing points. And then the wide receiver points are just so much higher than quarterbacks and defense and special teams as well. Yeah, essentially.
And to add on to that as well, at running back and wide receiver, you need the depth throughout the season. Like you've got two running backs, two receivers, and a flex on your team at any point. So you need the depth on your bench in case of injuries or bad form and things. And then also to add on to it, quarterbacks, sometimes the differentiation over the season in their points doesn't really stack up. Like between the first and second round, running backs can be sort of 50 to 100 points difference in over the season, whilst quarterbacks doesn't really get that much. As long as you're taking sort of a top half of the table quarterback, they tend to do fairly well over the season ananyway.
To add on to the point about
and obviously go on.
Oh, sorry. To add on to the point about having depth as well, you've got to remember certain teams have bye weeks, so you're going to have players that you won't be able to play in certain weeks as well. So that's why depth is also important.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess as the second kind of tick down to the start of this draft, and Alex, I guess I'll start with you on this one. How has COVID kind of affected? Preseason's obviously been scattered for many NFL teams. It's been hard to kind of gather and find out from training camp who's going to be the guys to get in for week one. How has that affected any normal preparation you'd have done normally for an NFL fantasy draft?
You've got to bear in mind that some players either have COVID or have decided to opt out of the season because of COVID. So some players are not going to actually play in the season. For example, I'm in an IDP league, which has individual defensive players, and a couple of them have got COVID, so I've got to change my plans up for that and stuff. So yeah, but the draft has begun.
It has.
There we go. Yeah, it has.
Yeah.
And who?
Yeah.
I'm trying to find who has got the first pick. Do we know who's got the first pick?
It was Charlie, and no surprises. The first two predicted, as you have said, have been Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley. Yeah. So no surprises there. I think we all saw that coming.
Why? And I know this might be an obvious question because obviously they have been the consensus number 1 and 2 picks, but why have those guys been the top picks to get? I mean, I'll start with Jack. Why has McCaffrey been the number 1 pick?
I think he's just really solid. Carolina run the ball a lot as well, so he's going to get loads of points through that. He's just consistent and he'll play all season, so it's an easy pick.
Yeah. Joe, do you agree with that?
Yeah, I'd say that, and I mean, compared to if you miss out on this round, when you have a pick that high, you've got to be taking the players that are consistently every week picking up points. You don't want to take a risk and guess that someone maybe is going to have a standout season. You want to go for those guys who injury, if they, as long as they don't have an injury, that they're going to be consistent and getting you those points to get you those wins, really.
Yeah, and then Alex, talk to me about Saquon Barkley. He's had not the smoothest time on the Giants. Is it the Giants? Yeah, it's Giants.
Yeah.
I will make no bones about it. I'm going to be the least knowledgeable person in this draft. I'm going to make that very clear. But yeah, why is it? Is it just because everyone's confident that Saquon's going to come back to his 2018 form? Is that why he's going so high?
I mean, you've got to bear in mind the kind of offense he's in as well. So you've got a quarterback in Daniel Jones coming into his second year. He had a decent rookie season, but I imagine the Giants will still be a run-heavy offense due to their lack of star-studded receivers as well. So I do imagine they'll be run-heavy. So based on sheer volume, he's going to get you points either way, I think. So that's why he's a first-rounder, top 2 picks, definitely.
Yeah. So pick number 3. Who have we? Oh, am I up?
You're on auto draft.
Am I on?
Oh no!
Oh no!
Hang on.
To be fair, you've been fine. You've taken Derrick Henry, so I don't think there's anything to worry about.
I actually had Derrick Henry going in the top 7, so I'll take that.
Yeah. No, going 8 is I would have taken him anyway in your positions. I can't lie.
Yeah. So just because I am struggling to kind of just manage this stream and the draft, just remind me did Ezekiel Elliott go 3rd?
Yeah.
Ezekiel, he did go 3rd. Yeah. Then Michael Thomas.
Then I took Thomas 4th.
Okay, so you went with why did you go with Michael Thomas? Because I've heard people go for like the no running back strategy, which is an interesting one. But why did you go with Michael Thomas over a bunch of running backs?
I mean, I figure I can either get the best receiver or I can get the 4th best running back. So I'm basing it kind of off that, I guess. I mean, in my strategy, round 1 is either running back or wide receiver, and you just pick the best player. So I guess I don't have much reasoning for it. I just Thomas the ball. What can I say?
Yeah. I'm now caught up actually. So Dalvin Cook went 5th. Kamara went 6th. Now when we did our Instagram post, we put Kamara in because he's obviously in a bit of a contract dispute at the moment.
Yeah.
Do you think that? I'll pose it to Joe. Do you think that impacted him from being maybe a top 4 or 5 pick? Do you reckon that's why he slid a little bit?
I don't think it would have impacted it too much. I think when you have sort of the running back you do, he's not really a scheme running back. He's not really sort of a power it down the middle or bounce outside. He's very versatile in what he does. They can pass it to him on 3rd down. He can run it outside. He can run it inside. So I think whatever team he goes to, he's going to fit in. Whether he stays at the Saints or get moves elsewhere, he'll fit into their offense well, I think.
Yeah, so then we had Devontae Adams, the 2nd wide receiver, to go in the 7th. Henry was my pick. And then, Jack, you took Nick Chubb. Why Nick Chubb? Was that just next best running back on the board?
Yeah,
or
I've got my own list up, and he's the next best running back I could have picked, in my opinion, so I picked him.
Fair enough. Then we had Jerry Jones went. Julio Jones, sorry. I'm literally learning this on the fly. So I look at the round 1, and has it gone pretty much as you guys expected? Maybe start with Alex. Has it gone pretty much as you thought it would go?
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's pretty standard compared to the other drafts I've done, I guess. I actually took Adams in the 1st round in a league I'm also in with Joe. It's a bit risky taking Adams. I think taking any offensive Green Bay players at the moment is a bit risky. I'm not sure how their offense is going to look really. So yeah,
and we've watched, and I guess Jeff, who is at the last pick, has taken 2 running backs in quick succession. Eckler, Mixon,
Jeff is a very good fantasy player. He's our head coach.
Is he? Oh wow.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I added him last minute to the league.
So, I guess if we're looking at if we're looking at other, so you mentioned Jeff. So anyone else you guys are keeping an eye on in this draft?
The pairing of Aaron and Stan is going to be very strong. I think they're two very senior players in our team, so I think they know quite a bit about fantasy as well. So yeah.
Yeah, and we're watching, and it is literally going. Travis Kittle's gone in the second round, the first tight end.
George Kittle.
Yeah.
I mix him up with
Travis Kelce.
That's
Yeah.
it.
No problem.
You guys are going to have to educate me throughout this. But are you surprised that a tight end's gone this early?
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm surprised he's gone ahead of Travis Kelce. I'd have thought, even though he did have quite a standout season last year, George Kittle, you want the consistency, and I think that's what Travis Kelce has provided for the last 4 or 5 seasons, to be honest.
Yeah,
Kelce should have certainly gone a bit above him.
Really? So, I mean, would that be a steal for someone, potentially? If anyone's planning to make plunge on that pick, is that a steal?
Potentially in round 3, yeah. Travis Kelce in round 3 is Lamar Jackson's just gone.
Wow.
That's an interesting call, to be honest.
You guys talked about saving QBs to the later end of the draft. Lamar Jackson's gone, and I know his ADP is like 3rd round, and this is the 2nd round, so he's gone maybe to most people a round early. Is that you guys showed surprise there? Why is that so surprising?
I don't think he'll get as many points as some of the running backs that are still available, and I would even put Mahomes above him if I was going to pick a quarterback.
Yeah. Alex, you had something there to say there. Were you going to agree with Jack there?
I don't necessarily have a problem with taking Lamar Jackson above Patrick Mahomes because he does provide more rushing ability, I think, than Patrick Mahomes does. But what you want to... I've seen a lot of people on like NFL.com saying you want to find the Lamar Jackson of last year. So Lamar Jackson last year was going very deep into the draft. So you want to find someone that's equally as deep as Lamar Jackson was last year, if that makes sense. So you want to draft a QB in about round 5 and hope he has a season like Lamar Jackson did last year.
Yeah, sorry, I've just taken out Joe and Jack because their picks. Joe's just made his pick. We'll bring him back. Joe, you've taken Chris Godwin. Yeah.
Yes.
Well, I mean, he's a Buccaneers player, so did that factor into that pick?
It absolutely did. I felt a bit with that pick. I was stuck between a bit of a rock and a hard place. I was looking through the running backs. That's why I took almost all of my 90 seconds. I was looking through the running backs and wasn't particularly fussed by any of them. I didn't think that's a star player that needs to go in round 2. So I thought, well, look at the wide receivers. I know Chris Godwin in last season especially was consistent week by week, got the points he needed. So I thought I'll take him this year, put half because I know he's a good receiver and he's a Buccaneers, but I also I have full faith in him. So
yeah, I'll add Jack back. Jack's just made his pick. It's my pick. Jack, you took Travis Kelce. Why'd you take Travis Kelce?
Yeah, I feel like Kelce and Kittle are kind of like the 2 standout tight ends here, and I wanted to pick him before he went to someone else, and then the rest of the tight ends are just not as good in my opinion. So.
Yeah, sorry, I've just picked Josh Jacobs. I've just gone, and most people are taking either 2 running backs or wide receiver running back. Is there for those who don't know the game, and maybe I'll ask Alex, what are any advantages to taking one strategy over the other? Do you want to explain that briefly?
I mean, personally, I don't think there are many disadvantages. I'm looking to take 2 wide receivers now personally with my next pick. So okay. I think you can wait on a running back in the early stages. Like Le'Veon Bell is still there, Connor is still there, but yeah, and make some trades. I would say as well. Make some trades certainly. If you stack up 4 wide receivers, for example.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll just... Sorry, Alex, I'm just going to... Because you're up next, I'm just going to give you some time to make that pick and concentrate on that. So, Jack, Joe, you look at... I mean, the first 2 rounds are flying. Like, I've done Fantasy Premier League draft, and it goes so much slower than this. Is there any player so far that you've gone, I've just missed out of him, or just a bit of regret that you're like, you weren't able to get him?
Personally, with me, I would have liked to have taken a a more star-owned back. I mean, I'm looking through the running backs, and none of them compared to the wide receivers. I always find with drafts, I prefer to take wide receivers early on, because I feel if you wait till the later rounds to take wide receivers, you're picking between a load of guys. You know the name, you've seen them play a couple of times, but they're not like stand out in your mind. Whilst with running backs, each team often runs 2 running backs in rotation, so that's already 64, maybe 50, or that's maybe a bit over, but maybe sort of 40, 50 running backs that you know well, and you think I'd be happy to take them and have them starting in my team.
Yeah, Jack, is there any player that has gone already that you kind of like?
I'm maybe starting to wish I had picked a wide receiver, but I don't know. Maybe hopefully when it comes back around, there'll still be one waiting. But I really wanted Julio Jones in my team, but obviously he's a very good player. So,
Alex, I mean, you've just taken DJ Moore. You've talked about getting high quality wide receivers in early. Do you think there's a deep running back class this year? There's so many that you can afford to go wide receiver heavy early on and then sift through and find those running backs?
Definitely, especially because there is quite a good rookie running back class coming through. So you've got people like Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Has Clyde Edwards-Helaire gone already?
He's gone.
He's gone already. Yeah,
gone.
But you've got people like Jonathan Taylor that might last all the way through. Cam Akers. You've got people like that who will definitely play this season and can still be good for you. But as I said, you've got veterans here like David Johnson and Le'Veon Bell that can still do a job for you as well. So yeah. So we're almost 2 rounds in, but Mahomes has just gone actually to the team with Saquon Barkley. Any team stand out to you of their 2-player combination so far? I'll ask Jack to start with.
I think Saquon and Mahomes is actually a really good pairing there. Alex's team with 2 wide receivers seems solid at the moment. Yeah, I'd say those are probably my 2 favorites that I've seen.
Yeah, Alex, any team that you're kind of watching out for?
I mean, not to blow my own trumpet or anything, but I do like Michael Thomas and DJ Moore. But yeah, the Mahomes. Did you just say it was the Mahomes and Saquon? Are they on the same team?
Yeah.
That's going to be a very good team as well. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah,
agree.
and we are coming close to your 3rd pick, so I'm gonna again just drop you out just so you can concentrate on making that one. Just having a look at the board, Odell Beckham Jr. has just gone to Charlie for the first pick at the 3rd round. Mahomes and Jackson have gone already. We talked about QBs. For those who don't know, Joe, who would be the next QB? Who would be the next range of QBs? Would it be in that Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson? Is that who we're looking at next?
Yeah. I mean, personally, I know the fantasy app or the site, they give you this rough rankings that they expect players in this sort of draft to go in, and they've put Russell Wilson quite a few picks behind Dak Prescott or Deshaun Watson. But I think once people sort of get cold feet and begin to take Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson because they think they're going early, I think Russell Wilson and perhaps Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, they might follow suit quite quickly earlier than they would have expected, just because I think people see how many points QBs get and they think, oh, if I don't choose one now, I'm gonna run out of time. But it sort of varies from draft to draft on what sort of the experience of the draft and really the order and things like that.
Yeah, and we're just watching. Alex is on the clock right now. Cooper Kupp's just gone from the Rams, and we'll bring him back in. Bear with me. There we go. We're bringing Alex back. You took Robert Woods from the Rams. Why Robert Woods? Have you been watching a lot of Hard Knocks? Has he done a lot on Hard Knocks?
Yeah, I have been watching Hard Knocks, and I've also got him in a few of my other teams. So I've got a lot of faith in Robert Woods this season. Yeah, let's hope he doesn't get injured.
Yeah. There's a lot of players. There's a few players who have been injured recently who may have been picked high. I'm thinking Jalen Reagor. I'm also thinking, obviously, AJ Green, we don't know. That's, again, why we put him in the Instagram post, because he's one of those could be great picks if he's not injured. Is there any players you guys are kind of worried about at the moment that you're not sure that you think might be picked high and then, might be an injury risk throughout the season? I'll start with Joe. Is there anyone out there that you're personally maybe staying away from?
I haven't actually looked too much into the injury calibers so far. I tend to let the app with the whole questionable thing dictate it for me. The only one I did like make a note of when I saw it was DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, a very, very good receiver in fantasy the last few years. Gets consistent, very good catch rate. But I'm looking through his questionable and his profile. And I'm thinking maybe, especially being on a new team, the Cardinals, not particularly great in the last few years. I'm thinking, has he gone a bit too early? Should he really have been a third rounder?
Yeah, Alex, is there anyone else that you're looking at the draft and thinking maybe they've gone too high? Or, I mean, I know the QBs obviously stand up. Is there anyone else that also
I saw someone take Odell Beckham Jr. in, was it the second or third round? And I think that's extremely high for his fantasy value. I feel like there's been a bit of maybe inexperience there. Maybe they've seen the name and taken him early. I don't know. I think he should have gone at least in like between 5 or 6 rounds, in the 5th or 6th round even.
Yeah. I'm actually bummed because I was really going for Allen Robinson, but he's gone. So I've had to make do with Juju Smith-Schuster, who actually might have a good season. Back from injury and with he might have a good season. As Jack kind of makes his next pick. So I guess I'll ask Joe next. I mean, are you looking? I mean, I know I've seen a lot of mock drafts. Is it mainly running back, wide receiver kind of tandem, like you go back and forth between picking those? When do you then decide to go for a tight end or QB?
A lot of the time, it's sort of it becomes down to experience. Once you've drafted for a few years, you sort of get in a bit of a flow. You think it becomes sort of more instinct rather than having a plan before. I mean, things change so quickly in a draft. You can have a plan right throughout, and then all of a sudden, a player goes you want, and you're stuffed. But I'll make my pick quickly and come back to you guys.
Yep, we'll give you some time there. Jack, you've taken your first Seahawk, Tyler Lockett. What was it? Was it just because you've seen a lot of him in the Seahawks jersey? Are you confident he's going to be able to build on a really strong year last year?
Yeah, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't because he's a Seahawk. That's at least part of the reason here. But I wanted to pick who was it? I wanted to pick Amari Cooper, but it says he's questionable, so I'm not too sure. So I've gone with Lockett instead.
Yeah, and then Joe, you've just popped it back in and out. You picked David Johnson, who he's 30. Is he? Correct me wrong. He's 38 years old, 39 years old.
Well, I'm not exactly sure, but I know he's been around in the league for a while.
So, with older players, obviously slightly a bit, maybe an injury risk for sure. Did that factor in all, or were you pretty confident you were going to get him?
Well, to be honest, it was a risky pick. I was looking for a running back and umming and ahhing between David Johnson and Todd Gurley. I know Todd Gurley for the last 2 seasons has had knee problems, and I know being in a new scheme that may flare up along with other sort of teething issues when you join a new team. So I decided, even though he's also joining a new team, David Johnson, I thought maybe he might be a bit more of a safer, reliable pick, and who has also come back from injury. In fairness, so it would have been risky to go either way, but I just decided to go with David Johnson in the end, trusting the Houston's offense over the Atlanta offense, really.
Yeah, for sure. And we just saw Chris Carson's just gone from the Seahawks. As the third round comes to an end, Alex, again, I'm going to probably be asking the same question every now and then, but 3 rounds in, how are you surprised by any of the picks, or has it gone pretty routine?
It's gone pretty routine in my opinion. Yeah, I mean the biggest ones for me was Kittle in the 2nd round. I personally don't think tight end should go until the 3rd round anyway. So, considering Kittle went even above Travis Kelce, which is probably the best tight end in the draft, yeah, that was probably the most surprising one for me.
Yeah, Joe. I know you've got 5 picks until you're next up, but any surprises so far?
I think, to be honest, I know AJ was talking about him being an experienced drafter and being known for being quite good, but Jeff's picks so far, 3 running backs, Miles Sanders, Kenyon Drake, I think were probably good, solid back-to-back picks, solid running backs. But then Amari Cooper and Todd Gurley Amari Cooper questionable with an injury, and then Todd Gurley, who I know as obviously I mentioned before, had those knee injuries and is now in a new team. I think it's interesting. I know perhaps he's playing it risky and thinks maybe if they do start the season well, they'll be good trading, or they'll have good seasons provided they don't get their injuries don't proceed. But it's an interesting draft from that perspective so far.
Yeah, and I'll just, again, since you're coming up, I'll just drop you out so you can concentrate on that. Jack Metcalf has gone from the Seahawks.
I know.
Was that someone you were looking? I feel like you were looking at.
I was definitely looking at him. He's a bit further down my draft board. I think I'm going to pick a running back kind of next, so I probably wouldn't have ended up getting him either way. But I think he's a solid player, and it's definitely a good fit for that kind of team. Although having two Seahawks players, maybe when they both have the bye week, is not the best idea. Being on the same team as Carson here.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's Allen's just gone. Keenan, his name's Keenan Allen, right? Yeah. Yeah, cool. I'm getting better at this. So fourth round. I mean, for those who haven't played NFL Fantasy, you guys talked about early on about picking QBs quite late. When can we expect the likes of Dak Prescott, Deshaun Watson, Alex? When can we expect them to be sort of looked at next?
In most leagues, it's typically like round 5, and for me, I'm going to start looking at quarterbacks round 5. I'm going to say that. Round 5, I'm going to look at quarterbacks.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to tell us which ones.
Yeah.
I assume it's common knowledge that those guys are up there in that tier, at least. So Joe's on the clock now. Joe's on the clock now. Ingram's just gone from the Ravens. Yeah, it's been interesting. I mean, this is my first NFL draft, so it's been definitely an interesting one. It's been interesting to see who's going wide receiver heavy versus who's going running back heavy. Do we have any wide receivers or running backs in this draft? Managers themselves that might, have that in the draft. Do we have any running backs or wide receivers in the draft, like picking players themselves?
So I'm sure we do, but one is just come up on the draft pick queue. I can see above. Oh, he's taken Melvin Gordon. I really wanted him. Sorry,
Joe.
I would have picked him if Joe didn't. So.
Yeah.
Joe, were you surprised to have Melvin Gordon down so low, or were you?
Well, I think. Pardon?
Go on. No. Go on.
It took me a long time to actually pick him because I know in previous years, obviously, he held out at the start of either the last year or the year before, and he's been was pretty consistent before then. So seeing he's at a new team and he's questionable, to think through, do I actually want him or not? But I think, provided everything going well, I think he'll be a good running back this season. So he was a sort of, compared to the other running backs left, it was a no-brainer.
Yeah, and Jack's gone with Jonathan Taylor. I'm going to go for Terry McLaurin. I think.
Scary Terry.
I think he'll have a pretty good season. And we'll see what happens. Washington's just listed Haskins as their starting QB, so it will be an interesting one for sure. Jack, you rebounded from Melvin Gordon disappointment to snare Jonathan Taylor, rookie. Am I right? He's a rookie from this year's draft.
Yeah, he is.
Are you high on him?
I'm nervous about the rookie thing because some rookies just go straight off into the depths of never playing. But I think he'll be all right where he is, so I'm hoping that he'll get me some points.
Yeah. Kareem Hunt's just gone from the Browns, and then Andrews from the Ravens. That's our third tight end? Are you guys considering tight end at this point of the draft, or is still very running back receiver heavy? I'll start with Joe.
Yeah, I'd begin to think about tight ends now. I mean, looking at the ones left on the board, there's a few sort of two or three. I'd class them as a top tier in Ertz and either Henry or Higbee. But I think there are a few good times. I mean, to be honest, they begin to cluster up a little bit as you in terms of their projected points and how they've gone in the last few seasons. So I would think about taking a tight end, but I wouldn't say it's absolutely necessary as a strategy.
Yeah, and we'll just add Alex back. Wow, that's gone pretty quickly. Alex, you took White from the Patriots running back. Why did you pick him?
He's a bit of a dual threat, so he can rush, and he's also great out of the backfield as well. I'm going to be honest, I didn't really want him. I kind of regret my decisions earlier on. I should have taken a better running back. But yeah, we'll wait and see how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah, Jack. How much? I mean, you mentioned the Jonathan Taylor pick. How many of these picks have you picked on upside, and how many have you picked with certainty that you've got those productive guys on your roster? Is there any kind of guys you've kind of taken a shot and hoping that they will improve tremendously?
I think Taylor's probably the only one I'm taking a shot on. I'd like to think everyone else in my roster is just already a solid player, particularly Kelsey and Chubb. They're just known for being consistent in their squads. So I think Taylor's probably my biggest risk here.
And Russell Wilson's just gone as the third QB, I guess. So it's an interesting one because I mean he's in that class with Prescott and Deshaun Watson. But Joe, are you surprised that Russell Wilson went above those two QBs, or just it's very hard to pick them apart?
It's a difficult one because Russell Wilson's been a fan favorite for years now. So I think he's probably gone in this position for years in fantasy drafts. So it's not surprising that he's gone ahead of Deshaun Watson. Personally, I would have taken Deshaun Watson ahead of Russell Wilson personally, but I can't see it as a bad move at all, to be honest.
Yeah, we're just gonna put the rules back up. We're in round 5 at the moment of the draft. Now, yeah, we should remind people, and I mean Alex brought that up, teams can trade players after the draft as well. So this isn't the final locked-in rosters for the season by no means. And there's the waiver wire. Free agents can be signed on the waiver wire. Alex, actually no. Well, since you're picking, we'll just drop you out. So, Joe, how closely will you be looking at the waiver wire once this draft is over?
To be honest, I don't tend to look at waivers until maybe the first, or especially until after the first week, unless there's an obvious reason to, as in one of my players is injured or they've decided to hold out, then I might take someone off of waivers straight away. But I tend to put full faith in my team, see how they do, because I'd hate to sort of take a gamble and drop someone for another player, and all of a sudden they have a standout game, even if you didn't expect them to. So I think I definitely trade up until the first game, straight after the draft, especially if in the late rounds you're taking players that you think maybe I don't need them, but I'd be happy to trade them away. But as for waivers, I'd probably hold out. It's just a personal preference, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'll ask Alex's view on waiver wise, but you've taken Deshaun Watson there, so you did get a QB as you kind of said. Was it a tough choice between him and Dak Prescott, or were you always going with Watson?
Personally, I prefer Watson. I don't know. I feel like he's a bit more mobile than Dak Prescott in a way. So you can, Dak Prescott's pretty mobile himself, but I feel like Deshaun Watson's going to get more yards across the ground than through the air. So, yeah, I like Deshaun Watson this year.
There we go. He's the 4th QB taken in this draft. Oh, I'm in, and Dak Prescott's just gone. Not that I was looking him up, but that's what I wasn't actually. But here we go. I'm having yeah. You guys are gonna have a live feed of me just thinking and trying to pick.
I'm gonna go and try and sway you at all.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with T.Y. Hilton from the Colts.
I was thinking that. I think in your position, if I'd been 2 picks earlier as you were, I think I would have gone for the same thing. So I'm gonna do the same as you, and I'm gonna start thinking from about now.
Yeah, well, Jack's on the clock, but I'll drop you out so you can have a chance to choose your picks. So Alex, you've got your QB. Are you done there with picking QB and you're now going back into the wide receiver running back mayhem?
Yeah, definitely looking more towards running backs now. I'm looking at getting the New England Patriots duo actually. Looking at Sony Michel. Yeah. I think so.
Yeah. Does Cam Newton's arrival in the Patriots, does that boost your confidence in the players around him, the receivers and running backs around him?
I mean, it kind of takes away from the running backs value, because if they had gone with their rookie or whatever, their backup quarterback throughout the year, you definitely would have seen a more run-heavy offense. But yeah, so now that I'm saying that, maybe I should shy away from the Patriots running backs. Now that I'm saying that, I've convinced myself out of it. So
There we go, Jack.
Yeah,
You took
you might have
Kyler
to go for
Murray.
someone else.
There we go. Yeah. Jack, you've got Kyler Murray. Have you been persuaded by the QB rush to grab a QB, or was Kyler Murray always in the plan?
No, it's completely. I was worried I wouldn't get a QB. I think that the next best QB on the list is like a Josh Allen or a Matt Ryan, and they're a bit further down in my rankings. So I figured I'd pick up Kyler Murray now while I still can.
Yeah, and then Joe, you went with Waller, Darren Waller, another tight end. But your first tight end, of course. Are you happy with him as your first and maybe only tight end?
I am. I was sort of the same thought process as Jack. I was looking at the other available running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, and I thought they don't need to go through another round or two. So I thought pick up a player that probably should be going a bit earlier on in the draft in Darren Waller. It's not someone I've picked in previous years. I think maybe this year the Raiders might have a bit of a comeback, and hopefully he'll be one of the leaders on the offense.
Yeah. Is it Tyler Boyd? Tyler Boyd's just gone from the Bengals. And now, when do you guys, maybe I'll ask Alex, maybe when do you start kind of picking players just purely, not on luck, but like purely on you're hoping that they do this, but you're not certain? When do you start picking those picks that are certainly non-certainties to do well, but you're hoping for something?
Well, I was just looking at Tyler Higbee, and he's a great example of that. Like, I'm not entirely sure what he's going to do this year, but yeah, I'm hoping he would have had a big year. But there we are. He's off the board now, so never mind him. But certainly, at this point in the draft, you just need depth at all your positions. Keep picking up running backs more than anything in my personal case. But yeah, just depth.
Yeah, and you guys mentioned your head coach Jeff. He's on the clock right now.
Yes.
He's got three running backs, one wide receiver in Amari Cooper, which is, Amari Cooper, you guys said he's an injury. He's a doubt to play the first week. Putting him as your first wide receiver in a roster, is that risky, do you reckon?
To be honest, the Cowboys offense, as much as any NFL fan hates to see it, I'm quite liking the look of the Cowboys offense. Yeah. So he was maybe thinking with that Amari Cooper pick, he's thinking a little bit down the line. Maybe they're a good playoff contention team this year, and hence they'll have a good season. Their wide receivers will pick up some nice points. So even if he is questionable for week 1 or 2, he's maybe thinking down the line, it's a good pick. Yeah,
and he's taken is it Devontae Parker from the Dolphins, a receiver, and he's on the clock again. Looking at the roster, and certainly when you get to the bench spots, what do you guys prioritize? Maybe I'll start with Jack. What do you prioritize for your bench? Is it running backs and receivers? Is that what you mainly prioritize?
Yeah, because you've got so many of them to fill in. Like, you've only got one quarterback slot and one tight end slot, whatever. But you've got like 5 effectively running back and wide receiver slots. So you just need to keep filling them when you have bye weeks or injuries or whatever. You need a backup.
Yeah. Joe, I see you're nodding along. I assume you agree with that as well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think at this point in the draft, you're either thinking depth in wide receivers and running backs, or you're thinking starting QB starters. I think you wouldn't really tight ends and defenses don't need to go for perhaps, unless they're really stand out, don't need to go for another round or another couple rounds. So I think now you're really looking for looking through. A lot of the moment they're pretty close in their projected points. You're looking, which one do I think, especially considering the team they're on, are going to have a good season this year and would be good on the bench in case of bye weeks and injuries.
Yeah, and we're now into round 6. Alex, are we halfway? We're not quite halfway. We're a third of the way through the draft. Is Jeff's team or the Saquon Mahomes team that we picked at the start, is that still a team you're looking at? Has any team kind of changed their perception, like your perception of them from their picks recently?
It's definitely still the grouping of Mahomes and Saquon Barkley is definitely very strong. To be fair, I haven't really been paying attention to many other teams other than my own, which is probably quite bad because I'm in a bit of crisis at the moment. Yeah,
are you kind of are you watching some of your picks go?
Yeah, definitely. I don't like the running backs I have at all. No. Yeah.
It's a risk. It's a get. Well, you've got some good wide receivers as well, though. So
yeah.
See how it goes. Jack, are you kind of waiting nervously for Joe's pick?
I am. I feel like Joe keeps picking exactly what I want just before I do, so can't be too quick.
Yeah. Have you got a plan B or plan C, or you?
I've got a plan B. I've got 2 players in between, so yeah. Okay, he picked one of them. I'll pick the other one. Cool.
All right, we'll bring you back. Put you in, Joe. I mean, AJ Green's he's had some time on the injury table for sure. Is he a risk, or is it kind of one worth taking?
It is a risk for a wide receiver with a supposing the Cincinnati Bengals do take Joe Burrow, a number 1 pick, a rookie, as their starter. It's a risk as to whether he's going to get good delivery from quarterback and whether the Bengals are going to do well this season at all. But I was looking at the only other player I was really considering was Jarvis Landry, and I haven't, as much as I like him as a player, I haven't seen any real standout production from him in the last few years, and so I thought it was a bit risky to guess that he's going to have a standout year this year.
Yeah, I've just gone with David Montgomery as my next pick. As it moves, as the round keeps going, we'll bring Jack back on. Jack, you got Jarvis Landry. Was that the player you were holding out for?
I wanted to pick AJ Green over him, but obviously Joe did, so I had to pick him. Yeah, it is what it is.
We'll just drop Alex because he's up next. How? I mean, is it is it how annoying is it that you've kind of because obviously what people might not know from fantasy stuff, people obviously spend a few hours or so planning for these. So how annoying is it to see then someone that you've kind of set your eyes on then go?
It's quite annoying. I was kind of torn between AJ Green and Jarvis Landry here, so it was close enough that I'm not too disheartened, but I would have much preferred AJ Green,
Yeah, but it's certainly a pick that doesn't come without risk.
Yeah.
And we're looking at we're halfway through the 6th round. Yeah. Are you guys? When do you start looking at potential sleepers or guys that maybe are a bit off the radar? When is it during these rounds or slightly later in the draft? When do you start looking at them?
I think this round is probably a good round to sort of start looking at sort of players that maybe other people haven't sort of think. A really good example is Aaron and Stan, who 2 picks ago took Leonard Fournette, recently signed for the Buccaneers. It's made, although maybe a slight bit of bias in my voice, but he when I was looking at him earlier, he was down still, hadn't been updated. He was still down as a free agent. And so I think his predicted points and his rank had been affected a little bit by that. So I think maybe had he been announced earlier in the summer, he may have been a bit of a higher pick because he has been in previous years, maybe not last season, but certainly the seasons before, quite a good, solid week in, week out running back.
Yeah, and obviously, training camps are still going on. Players are still getting cut as we speak. Jack, is that? I mean, obviously, you're doing a draft with hoping that all your players, and you assume most of your players will make it through. But when in a sport like that where it can change quite quickly like that, how does that factor into your thinking, if it does at all?
Well, I guess it's about picking consistent players who you kind of know they don't have any injury histories and they're just going to kind of get on with it. It is tough. I think that's why you need so much depth in the teams and just picking lots and lots of the same position, particularly the running backs and wide receivers. Like we say, yeah, it's just about consistency, I think.
Yeah, and Alex, you took Michelle off the Patriots. You did say you were looking at him, so you happy you got him?
Yeah, I am happy considering the rest of the running backs. As I look at, aren't looking too great in the season ahead. You got people like Kerryon Johnson, who is going to be challenged by DeAndre Swift in the backfield, I think, at Detroit. People like Philip Lindsay as well. We've got to share the workload now with like Melvin Gordon. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with taking Sony Michel.
Yeah, and we are coming to the end of round 6. I guess, Jack, when you look at the draft now, are these all the kind of surefires have pretty much gone? Is this when managers start taking up a lot of their 90 seconds to really kind of make clear decisions as to which players they're going for?
Yeah, I 100% reckon so. I also reckon this is the point that people should start looking at their quarterbacks and maybe, but not quite yet, the sort of special teams, defense and special teams.
Yeah.
Maybe in a couple of rounds still, but around now, like start thinking ahead to it.
Yeah, I'm just trying to look at how many teams are without a QB. I think there's 1, 2. I'm going to assume it's at least half of teams or so. Yeah, I think it's around half of the teams or so. Let's break away from fantasy chat. Obviously, it's been a busy offseason for the NFL in general. Joe, I mean, we mentioned you're a Buccaneers fan. You must be excited with the offseason that your team had.
I am. I'm excited for what the prospects are. I know it's the only risk really is it with when you go from changing an offense as much as they have sort of new quarterback, new tight end, new running back. It can sometimes take a little bit to gel. Maybe weeks 1 and 2, they're not quite all ready to go together. They aren't quite sort of all gelling as much as you'd have hoped, and maybe they'll take a little bit to get going. Maybe Brady isn't used to the new scheme yet, or something like that. Or Gronk's a bit slow, coming back out of retirement. So it's a difficult one to sort of say for certain how it's going to go, but it's exciting certainly, to say the least.
Yeah, Alex, how excited are you for this upcoming NFL season?
Quite excited, yeah. Actually, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I'm a fan of all sports, so it's going to be interesting to see what sport in general is like during these uncertain times of COVID-19. I imagine it will be very similar to previous seasons, other than the lack of fans. The on-field stuff will still be pretty similar, I think.
Yeah. I mean, Jack, I don't know how much you follow the NBA, but obviously they put in a bubble system, and obviously American football, it's quite hard to put a bubble system because there's so many players, they all kind of spread across the country. Are you worried at all that the season at some point is going to get halted because of a COVID outbreak among players?
I don't think it's impossible, particularly with such large squads. You got squads of 50 players coming together from both sides. 106 people showing up to a game is insane. It's unlikely that there won't be some kind of a breakout, and then a breakout would, of course, it should pause the season.
Yeah. As well as, I mean, the off-season movement, we saw big contracts awarded. Mahomes obviously stands out as one of the biggest contracts in a while. Jack, I'll just stick with you for a second. Mahomes, was he worth that big contract, do you reckon?
Easily, yeah. He's one of the best quarterbacks that's come out of college in absolutely forever, and he's going to be consistent for them. He's just their franchise quarterback now for sure. That was a good decision by them. Maybe a tad too much money, but it was the right option.
Yeah, and obviously teams have swapped QBs around. Joe, besides your Buccaneers, which team do you think had a standout offseason, do you reckon, in terms of the additions they made?
It's a difficult one. I mean, I think I don't know if there's any other team that's been particularly radical, like compared to. I've been following my team the closest, and obviously bringing back Brady changing team and Gronk coming out of retirement. Compared to that, I don't know if there's another team similar to that. But the one I'm really excited for is Cam Newton being named starter at New England. I think that's going to be really interesting. Obviously, it really struggled with the Panthers last season. They brought in Kyle Allen as his backup to start. And so I think it will be really interesting to see if he lands on his feet. And if he does, I can't see. I think the Patriots, even without Brady, will still be a dangerous team.
Yeah, and Alex is on the clock, so we're just going to let him pick for a second. I mean, Jack, as a Seahawks fan, are you optimistic with what's happening? Obviously, I mean, you just signed Josh Gordon. You've got him back as well as the trade with Jamal Adams. Are you excited as a Seahawks fan?
Yeah, I'm very excited. I think the defense this year is going to be absolutely amped up. Maybe not quite the Legion of Boom, but definitely that kind of vein of Seahawks defense for sure.
Yeah, I'm excited to follow this. I mean, it'll be the first NFL season I follow in depth, so this will be fun for sure this season. Jack, I'm just going to remove you just because you're soon. I'm obviously mulling over my picks and trying to make trying to just weighing them up and trying to see where to go. Aaron and Stan are on the clock. Maybe obviously one of your Wolves guys. Do you want to? What do you guys know of his fantasy know-how? Their fantasy know-how.
To be honest, I'm not that familiar with it really. Fantasy. I mean, we run quite a lot of fantasy every year, but personally, I'm not particularly familiar. I don't know if AJ has any further knowledge.
In our charity league last year, Stan actually won it and beat Jeff in like the final. So
wow.
I think he's got a lot of know-how, and Das has been playing for the Wolves for what, like 15 years maybe. I don't know, something like that. He's a veteran player. So I'm guessing he has some good knowledge of the sport. I don't know personally from like fantasy situations, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna remove Joe. Okay, that's interesting. So you've got, I mean, a lot of people in this league clearly have either won leagues or finished quite highly. So this promises to be a competitive one for sure. This is exciting. I've just gone with Henry Ruggs. We can bring Jack back. You've just taken Brandon Cooks. Jack, I thought about Brandon Cooks, but I ended up opting for Ruggs. But were those two names in the same kind of grouping, or were you pretty set on Brandon Cooks?
Yeah, I'm actually surprised you took Ruggs. I was expecting you to take Brandon Cooks just ahead of me, so I was ecstatic to be able to get him. Yeah, I would put Ruggs quite far down in my ranking.
I'm betting on upside. I think I'm just betting on, obviously he's a rookie. I think I'm just betting on seeing him have a standout year. I don't know, Alex, do you have any thoughts on that dilemma?
Ruggs has speed, and speed kills. So Ruggs, I think he's very similar to Tyreek Hill in some aspects. Ruggs, so he could be very good, but again, he's a rookie, so you never really know. You never really know.
And then Joe picks Deontay Johnson, who is, I guess the 4 or 5. This round's been mainly wide receivers. Would you class, Joe? Did you think they're all in the same grouping, or did you have Johnson above these wide receivers being picked at the moment?
I mean, I was looking through the wide receivers and I thought I compared wide receivers to running backs, and I thought looking at the position, I think it was time to take a wide receiver instead of a running back. There wasn't much in it, but then when I was looking through the wide receivers, it comes to what I was saying earlier, where you begin to think which team is going to come back this year, which teams are going to stand out, who are they competing with in their position for reps. So it was tougher than I expected, but to be honest, I would have been happy with quite a few of the wide receivers in that round.
Yeah. I was just saying I had Ruggs, Cook, and Johnson were all kind of in my thoughts. But I ended up opting for Ruggs. It's a gamble. We'll see. We'll see how that goes as the 6th round kind of comes to an end with Jeff on the clock at the moment. We're about halfway, heading into round 8. Let's just go around the table. We'll start with Jack. How happy are you with your roster halfway through the draft?
I'm actually very happy at the moment. I was worried with my 8th place in the 12-man draft that I would just get all the worst picks in all the rounds. But no, I feel like I've gone good so far. Yeah.
Yeah. Alex, your thoughts on your roster?
I was really happy to start off with. Deshaun Watson has kind of saved it, but the running back situation is not great. And I'm, of course, doing this team on behalf of my house next year, which all are Wolves players, so I'm not sure if they're going to be very happy with me, but we'll find out.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. Joe, are you happy with your roster?
I'm happy. I'm feeling a little bit wide receiver heavy at the moment, just because being in the middle of a round, every time it seems to come around to me, it's that everyone you'd expect to go that round has already gone. So you begin to think, who else could I be nabbing at the moment? So I'm starting to think maybe I'd quite like another running back or my QB at this point. So it's an interesting one. I'm pleased with it, I'd say, but it's a bit of it's shaky compared to other drafts I've had where I've had a more cut out plan.
Yeah, actually, and you're on the clock, so we'll just remove you. Tom Brady's just gone to Oliver. Well, to the team compromised with Oliver and Marcus, and Joe. were you thinking of Tom Brady before he got taken, and is that why you've gone to Cam Newton?
I was thinking of him. It was between Cam Newton and Tom Brady, but I wouldn't say I was 100% decided on one or the other. I was gonna mull it over, because obviously taking Tom Brady, I'd have a QB and a wide receiver from the same team, which is sort of similar to doubling down. If one plays bad, then usually both do. But so I thought maybe Cam Newton would be the safer play, but then obviously he's in a new team, win a new scheme, so it was between those two, and I've been happy to take either, but I think either way, both is a risk.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of waiting on Jack here, kind of waiting nervously to see what I come up with. And who's he taken? Okay. I see what he's done there. I am gonna look through my roster for a brief second, which is bad radio, bad show, but you know. Oh man, I am actually torn here. I'm actually quite torn. I'm not gonna say who.
I think.
I mean, maybe you guys can answer this question why I pick my pick here, but is this the part where you kind of you're hoping and banking on that upside? I know we talked about it just now, but is this now really that kind of stage of the draft?
Yeah, I'd say so. At this point, it's everyone has their own sort of strategy at these sort of mid draft rounds. It's some people like to go absolutely on just what on the stats and predicted and where you expect people to go, whilst others begin to think, okay, now these late draft picks, these aren't going to be the standout players in the team. They're more the ones you're thinking, could these guys develop over the season and become unexpectedly good? And is it time to maybe take a risk and guess that someone's going to have a breakout season?
Oh boy, I'm really down to it. All right. I'm going Golden Tate. I'm going Golden Tate. All right. It was between Slayton and Tate, and I lean towards Tate. What I can say is I don't know much about NFL, but I've obviously studied a bit, because I guess that's the only way I can make up for it. So I've read some stuff on Tate, and I think he might be a nice pick there. Jack, you went with Johnson from the Lions.
Yeah.
Was that the pick? Were you happy with that pick?
I was between him and Zach Moss from out of Buffalo, and I just think Johnson slightly has the edge in that kind of battle. I wanted another running back, so I went with him.
Yeah, no. First, Alex, you're taking our first team defense player, if you like. Are you quite happy with that pick? Taking the first one, I guess, off the board.
Well, I didn't take the defense.
There's two Alexes here.
Oh, right.
Well, that's where the confusion lies.
Yeah, my bad. Okay, I'll rephrase the question. Are you surprised that the first team defense has gone off the board at round 8?
Yes, I would say so. In my strategy, I don't go for a defense until round 14. So, I mean, for me personally, it's a bit early. But if you go in for would the 49ers be the best defense this year? I don't know, but if they are, I guess it's a good pick.
I reckon the 49ers are the best defense, but I still think you've got time to pick it.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think defenses will go off the board until round 10.
Yeah, not
usually. Yeah.
I'm having a look. I'm just having a look through my kind of pre-draft rankings, as I'm sure everyone is. I mean, you mentioned Zach Moss, Jack. Was it again kind of the rookie factor again? Was that why you opted out of taking him?
It definitely did play into my decision. I'm also looking at my kind of ranking, and they're ranked really similarly, but I've got two kind of rankings and they're flipped in each one, so it was kind of confusing. And then there was also a bit of randomness, of course, because
you've also got Jonathan Taylor, so you would have had two rookie running backs, which would have been an interesting one as well. I mean, Alex, I found your actual pick. You took Slayton in the end, who I thought about with Tate. Are you happy with taking Slayton?
I think so, because I think Tate is going to be more so working in the slot this year. So that means kind of like shorter routes, shorter yardage gain per catch. And I feel like Slayton is more of the deep threat, which will lead to more upside, I feel. So, yeah, I'm happy with Slayton.
Yeah.
Maybe traded away.
Okay. Well, managers have been warned. I mean, I'll ask Joe, and going away from fantasy talk for a second. Is there a team that you think will rebound from their 2019 season and make a big kind of improvement in 2020?
It's a difficult one to call, to be honest, because I can't no team with a particularly bad season springs to mind. Obviously, the Bengals, but I don't see them. I don't see that even with the first round pick, the first pick in the first round. I don't see them bouncing back. So I think it's going to be a similar season to last year. Obviously, just with no team making huge changes, and obviously there's going to be restrictions, and people have had and teams are going to have had difficulties over the summer. So there's no team I'd absolutely put my finger on, but it wouldn't surprise me if one team did have an unexpected turn.
Yeah, Jack, is there a team that you're looking at making a big improvement in 2020?
Big improvements. I'm not particularly sure, to be honest. I'm really bad at predicting things, but I reckon that the Raiders might do decently this year, kind of as maybe a touch of a surprise to most.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting one. I think I saw their coach gave a vote of confidence to Derek Carr, so it looks interesting as a QB, which should be an interesting one. Alex, is there a team you're looking to make an improvement? Same question. Is there a team you're looking to make an improvement in 2020?
For me, I think the Bengals, just because the arrival of Joe Burrow, the first overall draft pick in 2020, he will, I think, naturally make them a better team. They also picked up a very good receiver in the second round of the draft. His name escapes me. Is it T. Higgins? I think they picked up. So I think offensively they've improved. I'm not sure as a team overall, but I think offensively they'll improve definitely.
Yeah. One just sprung to mind for me looking through the board is the Arizona Cardinals. I mentioned it earlier. Them picking up DeAndre Hopkins. They've got Kenyon Drake at running back and Kyler Murray at quarterback. I think it's an exciting looking offense, but whether they're anything special this year, it'll be tough to call at this point.
Yeah, actually, Joe. I mean, I think we had Jack on to discuss this when we discussed the NFL draft. But were you surprised that the Texans gave Hopkins away to the Cardinals and traded him away?
I think everyone's been surprised with how the Texans are trading. To be honest, this offseason, it's been a bit all over the place. But I think either Bill O'Brien is very easily persuaded in his trading, or he's got a master plan that he's not telling everyone.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I think that caught many people by surprise by that trade, and obviously, Deshaun Watson's going, "Where's my help?" because it's obviously gone. Yeah. So, Jack, you look quite calm there. Do you know who you're roughly picking next? Have you kind of got a plan now in round 9?
I don't think I so much have a plan now as much as I just sort of feel like I've picked all the people I need to pick now, and everything else is kind of extras to fill up the roster more than essential picks, except for defense and eventually a kicker, but that's really, really far away, if that's all. Yeah.
Joe, are you the same? Are you kind of in that getting where it's like you've ticked all the kind of the boxes you wanted to tick, and now it's kind of getting in those bonus guys that maybe could pull in some really high level production?
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, I'm thinking I'm very happy with my starters in the crucial positions. Now I'm thinking just fill in a little bit of depth, a couple more running backs, wide receivers, maybe a tight end, then some defenses and a backup quarterback. And I think it's a nice smooth sailing through to the end of the draft. I'm not going to have any picks where I'm like, oh, that's an awful one. I haven't got a good pick here. I think for the foreseeable rounds, it's going to be all between a few players, and which one do I really think has the chance to go big this season?
Yeah, and we've just on the first kicker gone. The first kicker has been picked. Are you surprised by the kicker going so early?
Absolutely. I don't know if I think they may potentially be on auto draft because of that little symbol there. But it's a weird. I don't know really. In terms of kickers, I've always been, whenever I've actually drafted one in the rounds rather than taking one off of waivers or trading for one, I've always picked the wrong one, and I've ended up just better off just picking up one for free or including it with a little trade deal. So I think a kicker going that early maybe is a little bit odd. But I mean, if some people want to back that horse, then I'd say let them.
Yeah, I've just taken Hawkinson as my first tight end pick, which I'm pretty happy with. I mean, Gronk was there as well, but the decision got easier when Gronk left, so there's that. We're just waiting. I know you're next. We're just gonna, Jack.
That's fine.
I know he's pondering his next pick, but I guess we're at the point now where I guess not. I mean, not that we're all. I mean, we're all obviously very focused, but I feel like this is the point now where you can now kind of relax a bit and just kind of take people to bolster your bench. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, I'd say so. I think really with defenses and kickers, the last sort of positions you need to fill, a lot of the time you're not really certain which are going to be the top people's defenses and kickers to take until you actually get to the into the season. So I mean, some people choose to take one just to be certain they've got a good defense or a good kicker, but personally for me, it's all about depth at this point.
Yeah, and you're up, so we'll just drop you out for just to make that pick. Jack, you did return to Zach Moss. Are you surprised? I mean, are you happy you waited a round later to pick him up?
Yeah, well, I would have picked him if Johnson had already gone, and I'm surprised that Moss hadn't gone in the time that the round went around. So I was happy to pick him straight up. Yeah.
I'm also quite surprised he was still there for you. I only went because I needed a tight end, so that's when I decided to prioritize that. I'm still holding out on I think I'm the only one of the four of us who's not picked a QB.
I still think there are some good QBs left for you to pick, though, so I don't think that's necessarily a problem.
Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, certainly one's got. Yeah, I've got an eye on a few.
Josh Allen, Carson Wentz, Matt Stafford, Rodgers, they're all still here, so.
Yeah, even Gardner Minshew, I think, could be a decent, like a late round pickup as well. So I'm kind of waiting it out here, building out the rest of the roster. I mean, we saw. I think I dropped you out before I mentioned this, but we saw the first kicker go in this round. It's quite early, isn't it?
It's a little early. We're probably on the edge of maybe kickers, maybe a round or two more, but I think that's too early for a kicker.
Yeah, I mean. Not the Alex that we've just had, but the other Alex has taken the first team defense and the first kicker. And he's looking at his roster. I don't know if you guys are able to look at his roster or not while I ask this question. Are you? I mean, it's an intriguing one for sure. I don't know if you guys have any thoughts on his roster.
I'm looking at it quite closely. Drew Brees, I find quite interesting. I don't know. Like, obviously, there's the whole Drew Brees, Tom Brady debate, but never year on year. I always see it as too safe a play going with Drew Brees. It's much more exciting and sort of you can still get some good rushing QBs who generate points. In terms of they had a good first few rounds. I like their first three picks. I'd personally be happy with myself, but taking 49ers and Butker, absolutely a brilliant sort of kicker and a defense, like probably arguably the two best sort of, or the two of the best, but it's difficult to say whether they should have gone now. Personally, it's not really my strategy, but up to them, I suppose.
Yeah, and we've got Alex back. Alex, I mean, I don't know if you've had a chance to look at this round, but I mean, it seems to be the tight end round from the sounds of it. 6 tight ends have been taken out of the 14 teams so far, and there's still 3 picks to go. Is this kind of, I mean, are we looking at these tight ends as kind of the second, maybe third tier tight ends, and this is about the right place where they would be starting to go? Oh, you're on mute, buddy. You're on mute, buddy. I'll just give you a bit of time.
There we go. I think it should be working.
Yep. Yeah, you're all good.
Oh, beautiful. I think these might be like 3 or 3rd or 4th tier tight ends, to be honest. Let's see who else is going here. Eric Ebron might be a good pickup, who has quite good upside. He's playing in Pittsburgh now, so in a better offense than what he was probably in with the Colts. So yeah, he could be a good pickup.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, here we go. I mean, we're getting into the 10th round. you know, starting to. I mean, I guess teams are starting to fill out their bench if they haven't already, except for the kicker and the team defense. Just, I mean, for some people who don't play NFL fantasy, Jack, do you want to explain maybe how important a bench is to a team and how widely used it becomes over the course of the season?
I mean, this is also my first NFL fantasy league, but
is it? Okay.
Yeah, I do reckon that as players get injured, it's particularly important. But also, every team has a bye week, and so everyone who is in your main roster is guaranteed to have at least 1 week where they just won't get any points, and so you need someone to put in at that point.
Yeah, I'm just seeing the chat. People want to shorten the picks to a minute, which will keep it very kind of fast and furious at this point.
Let me see if I can change that.
I'll let you sort that out, Alex, off screen. So 10th round now. I guess going back to, I guess thinking about the NFL season as it comes up. I'm trying to think. What's is the opening week matchup of the opening week matchups, Joe? And I don't know if you know the opening round matchups. Is there one that stands out to you as a must-watch game for the first weekend?
I can't say I've looked at any of them in depth, to be honest. I know I can't even tell you the Buccaneers are playing, but I'd be excited. There's a few teams, rather than their matchup, there's a few teams I'd be excited to watch in particular. Obviously the Buccaneers, because I support them, but I'd be excited to watch the Cardinals, as I saw earlier, and I'd be excited to watch Cam Newton in his first game in the Patriots uniform.
I've got the match for you. I'll reveal it once. You've got to make your picks. I'll reveal in a sec. Jack, I'll tell you the Seahawks have got the Falcons first up on that Sunday. Are you excited for that game?
Yeah, it'll be. First of all, it should be lovely to watch the NFL actually starting again. But I think that'll be an interesting game to watch. I think both teams are reasonably evenly matched. Maybe the Seahawks have a slight edge there, but I think it'll be a good game.
Yeah, Alex, I don't know if you've seen the week 1 matchups, and if not, I can read them out to you. But is there one that stands out off the top of your head?
The opening game of the Chiefs against the Texans, if I'm right in saying, will be pretty good. I think major offensive football going on there. Everyone gets to see the $500 million man in action, Patrick Mahomes. So it's always a show when he's playing, I guess. So it should be a good game to watch, I think.
Yeah, 100%. I am sorry, I'm just a bit distracted because I'm on the clock soon. Jack is on the clock, so I'm gonna remove Jack, bring Joe back. Joe, you picked Daniel Jones, so you've taken a second QB.
Yes,
2 QBs. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's certainly a strategy some managers use, but not all of them. So, in terms of having a reserve QB, so why did you decide to take a second QB now?
I use it every time I do a draft because obviously I don't know if I've done it this time, but usually I like to have 2 QBs in different bye weeks just so I have one to run. I also like sometimes you have surprise bad form, like I mentioned with Cam Newton last year. So I like to have one on the bench just in case one of them is sort of just playing awfully, throwing like that just playing like getting only a few points a round. So I like to always have 2 QBs, hopefully starters, who I put in rotation. So I always never really have to worry about the QB position because it's a bit of a pitfall to fall in to not have a good QB one route because obviously they get you between 15 and 30 points pretty consistently. So it's important to have someone to get those easy points in.
Yeah, and in fact, you were the first of 3 QBs, including myself, to pick up those types of guys. Jack, you went with Carson Wentz. Are you worried about an injury for him? Is it a risky pick, or are you pretty happy to take him?
If I'm being completely honest, the clock was running out, and then I accidentally clicked the wrong player.
Oh no!
But I have him now, so I'll put him in when Kyler Murray has a bye week. But I think I'll be playing Kyler Murray for as much as I can of the season.
Was there someone were you thinking of, say, an Aaron Rodgers or someone like who I just picked? Was there a player that you were thinking of? Joe Burrow's just gone as well. Were you thinking of those guys rather than Carson Wentz? Or
no, I wasn't even going to pick a quarterback. Actually, I was looking to pick another wide receiver for my bench.
Oh wow, okay,
yeah.
Well, I mean,
you've got downhill.
You got still two decent options for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
Joe Burrow, obviously the number one pick. He's just gone after me. Stan and Aaron, they've taken him. Are we excited to see what Joe Burrow can do in a Bengal uniform? I know Alex has got a pick soon, so we'll drop him out. But Jack, are you excited to see what Joe Burrow does in a Bengal uniform next season?
I am actually, yeah. I think watching some of his college play, he's an outstanding athlete, so I'm very interested to see how that translates into the NFL.
Yeah, Joe, would you echo the same?
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm a bit half-heartedly looking at the my upcoming picks at the same time. I have to say.
Yeah, no worries. We've seen Ben Roethlisberger just go. Matthew Stafford's just gone, and then the second team defense is just gone as well. So an interesting round, QBs, and then the second team defense, and a few wide receivers as well. I mean, Alex has the draft. I mean, round 10. Are these the type of players you would have thought would have gone in round 10? You're starting more QBs, the second team defense. Is that what you expected in round 10?
Yeah. Defense is what I definitely expect to go off round 10. You might start to get some people drafting a second quarterback around now. I'm certainly looking to do that maybe in round 12. But yeah, you certainly look at a lot of backup options, stuff like that. You'll get the run on defenses maybe starting 12, 13, stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we've got 5 rounds to go, and I mean, looking at Jack. I mean, I ask this question now. Round 10 now. Are there any players that you kind of wished you had got your hands on? Looking back at what you've picked, are there any ones that you kind of were pick away that you nearly got your hands on and just couldn't get them?
Yeah, I feel like I'm sandwiched between you and Joe, and you're both picking all the players I want permanently. So yeah, there's a few like Deontay Johnson, Chris Godwin I would have picked up, Juju Smith-Schuster as well. They would be my main 3, I reckon.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, I know you're deep into studying for your next picks. Are there any players any favorites that you have for fantasy that were taken by someone else that you kind of wish you had?
To be honest, it's happened a few times out there. There's a couple. I'd have to actually go through afterwards and have a bit of a look. But in terms of staples, I'd like to have taken Josh Allen instead of Daniel Jones as my backup. I had him queued up, and I think he got taken 2 picks before my pick or something like that. He was one I was looking at particularly closely, but I don't think. I think every time I've made a pick, I've had a backup that I've been happy with. There's no point where there's no time in this draft where someone's taken a pick I wanted, and then all of a sudden, like, oh no, I've got to try and find a backup or a second choice pretty quickly. Yeah,
100%. And we bring Alex back in. Alex, you've taken your second tight end. Is that because you're not confident in Cook from the Saints, and that's why you've taken the second one, or is it just for insurance in case of an injury?
So yeah, it's I'm okay with Jared Cook being the starter, but it's definitely more so to do with injuries, because from my experience, tight ends get injured quite frequently. Pretty much every tight end I've had over the years has got injured. So yeah, it's definitely an insurance policy, that big.
Yeah, for sure. Will is on the clock at the moment. I mean, at this stage, when you're filling out your bench, and maybe Jack, you can explain to people who don't play that often, but like myself, although it's also your first NFL fantasy league, so I hate to put you on the spot, but are you looking to fill up your bench with receivers and running backs? Is that the plan?
Yeah, almost entirely. I'll probably put a kicker and a special teams and a quarterback, but the other slots will be. And even then, I probably won't pick a kicker, actually, now that I say that, but yeah.
Yeah, I will drop you out because your pick to make. And then Joe, I mean, Joe, are you kind of waiting on Jack? Are you nervous on?
To be honest, I'm stuck on this pick. I'm stuck between defenses, wide receivers, running backs. I think I'm going to be. I'm not sure whether this pick is probably the first one I've got to where I think, oh, I could actually make a mistake here. But I'm umming and ahhing. But the only thing I'm concerned about is that I think I've only got two running backs. And that my starters, and I haven't got any depth. But looking at the players remaining, it would be a couple of. I could either go like someone I know is going to play, but probably isn't going to be a game changer, or take a risk and end up wasting a pick. So it's a difficult one, but I'm going to have a think of it.
Yeah, and we'll drop you out as you make your pick. We'll bring Jack back in. Jack, you took another running back. Is it kind of best at the rest at this point?
Yeah, I'm not expecting Vaughn to get many downs, particularly with Fournette going to the Buccaneers now. But maybe if I need him in a particular week, I'll throw him in.
What I will say about Vaughn is, though, you never know what's going to happen.
Alex, I mean,
Fournette. With Fournette going, like he's just got there. You never know what's going to happen in preseason and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, Alex. I mean, the news obviously Fournette came out this week, and it's all kind of happened quite quickly. Now the Buccaneers have quite a bit of a logjam at the position. It's fair to say. How closely were you looking at that, especially with NFL fantasy? And then, what do you think will be the outcome of that said logjam at the position?
So in one of the first drafts I did this year, I actually drafted Ronald Jones, who would have been the starter, and then I drafted Fournette literally a couple days before he left Jacksonville. So yeah, it did leave me with a bit of a conundrum. Obviously, like at one point I thought, oh no, Fournette's not going to get signed; he might sit out the whole year. And then, of course, I've been hit with the dilemma that Ronald Jones probably is going to lose volume now because Fournette's gone to Tampa. So, yeah.
Yeah, Joe. I mean, you're the Buccaneers fan. What did you think of the Fournette signing and then the resulting kind of logjam at the running back spot?
Well, as a Buccaneers fan, it's a complete weird situation from going from having sort of two okay-ish pounding the rock sort of running backs, or if you trust them on the goal line, but they're not really game changers, to now having four running backs in after acquiring LaShawn McCoy and Leonard Fournette. It's a bit of a weird one, but it's good to say the least, because we're always going to have someone to fill in at that position. But it's I don't know whether the cap space or the trading could have been done elsewhere.
Yeah, for sure. And where are we? We're around 12, and we're around 12 at the moment. At this stage, Jack, is it kind of filling your needs at the roster position now? I mean, you're waiting on Joe now, but is that kind of the mindset at the moment?
Yeah, I am looking at both a defense and a kicker. I'll see what Joe picks. I have no idea what Joe's going for here, but defense and kickers are definitely in my mind right now.
Yeah, Alex. I mean, you look at your roster. What's left there for you to pick up? What are you kind of looking at?
So in this round, I'm looking to get a backup quarterback. Then next round, I'm looking to get another running back, and then I'll be looking at kickers and defenses in the final two rounds.
Yeah, for sure. I'm also looking at my bench and now wondering what else to do with it as Joe kind of makes his pick. He's made his pick. We'll drop Jack out, bring Joe back in. Joe, I mean, you said the last pick was a tough one for you to make. You weren't quite sure. With this one, was it as straightforward or just as difficult?
No, just as difficult. I'm beginning to think maybe the depth isn't really worth it, because I'm looking through the running backs and wide receivers, and it's becoming a bit of a guess as to which ones are going to get reps and which ones are going to be on the winning team. So it's I think now's it's either in the next couple of rounds it's going to be a toss up between depth, kickers, and defenses. It's becoming ironically tougher in the later rounds than it was in the first few.
Yeah, and I'm in that spot now where I'm kind of looking at players and trying to find upside. But You know what? I'm gonna go AJ Dillon, who I know is a rookie, and again I'm going for upside, but that's who I've gone with. Jack, you went before me. You took Samuel from the Panthers, a receiver. I mean, you had three receivers beforehand, so was it kind of getting that bench depth in?
Yeah, it turns out I'm a complete liar. I'm still going to hold off on defense and stuff, and I just went for another depth filler.
Yeah, for sure. As the picks kind of fly in at the moment. I mean, Alex, actually, you've got a. We'll ask you in a sec once you've made your pick. But Joe, what is your view? I mean, when it comes to picking a veteran or rookie player at the position, do you lean towards one or the other, or is it kind of depends on specifically who the player is, or do you have a kind of how do you decide between that?
I tend to lean towards veterans, in my opinion, only because in the majority of cases they've had a few years of good, solid, getting fancy points, getting reps, sort of pounding the reps out and getting good fancy points. So it's whilst with rookies, if they're a rookie, obviously you only have their college record. But even if they're first or second year, unless they've had a standout year or they're on a really fantastic team, I feel like you're always taking a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, for sure. As we've seen some of the QBs go, and Alex, you took Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
Are you happy to take him?
I back his talent. I do. I back his talent. So yeah. I'm happy with him as my backup, considering I'm hoping he'll only play one game for me, and that's when Deshaun Watson will be on bye week. So, I mean, he's like that week he could record 30 points. You never know. Let's hope.
Yeah. I mean, the Browns obviously had made a big splash this time last year, and then everything didn't go quite their way. Do you think that they'll rebound in 2020?
I think have they got a new head coach? I think with the new head coach, they'll definitely do better. I don't think Freddie Kitchens was the guy for the job at all.
It's Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah. I think with a new head coach, new system, they'll definitely do better. I think it was a problem with management rather than personnel.
Yeah, for sure. We'll see how they go. As we kind of get to the later stages of the draft. I guess now, I mean, is it now focus turns towards kickers and team defense? I'll start with, Alex, you're about to pick, so I'll just drop you out for a sec. Joe, is that kind of your mindset at the moment now, looking at those two categories?
I mean, it's a toss up, really. I think if you go for a defense, you're sort of you're guessing that team is going to be strong this year, because when you look at the projected points, they're all sort of within 10-15 of one another, and you often have one team has a surprisingly good defense compared to previous years, and all of a sudden that team's being traded and is being picked up off the waivers and things. So it's taking a defense at this point is probably the sense it's an okay idea in terms of you're actually filling the position. But as for if one's in particular demand over others, I wouldn't say there's it's very crucial as to which one you end up with.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Jack, do you know exactly what you're going for the last 3 rounds? Do you have a clear plan for the next
I
ones?
know which defense I'd like, so I'm hoping they're still there when I get to my pick. Besides that, it's all up in the air.
I'm the same because I've realized my bench is slightly unbalanced, and I'm gonna have to trust that I'm gonna have one QB going into this or one tight end. I only have one bench spot left, so I'm in a bit of a dilemma at the moment. So that's where my focus is going. But yeah, we've seen what Alex has picked. Alex has taken. Alex, you've taken another receiver. Is it kind of just getting? Oh no, you haven't taken a receiver. Yeah, you took Burkhead.
Running back. Yeah.
Sorry, again,
is
it
the
2 Alexes?
A particular reason why you've taken all 3 Patriots running backs?
I have just clocked Rex Burkhead to play for the Patriots. Damn. I only took him to play him in the week when my 2 starters we're on bye
no.
week, and of course he's going to be on the bye week still. Oh
no.
yeah,
Oh,
expect,
wow.
It'll be
me in your DMs later. I'm going to be trading.
something to trade.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh boy. I think I've definitely got an unbalanced roster, so I'm gonna have to fix this after the draft, which is gonna be fun. Oh boy. Yeah, you're watching me live on YouTube, kind of have a little bit of a mini panic of deciding who I'm going for. Okay, great. I went on auto pick. Sick.
Yeah.
Okay, I got kicker. Fine.
I
Fine.
wouldn't be unhappy with that, in fairness. I was to take a kicker, he's the kicker I would have taken.
You know what?
Did you take?
I've taken Will Lutz.
Will Lutz.
Oh right, okay, yeah, fair enough.
You know what? I don't mind that. I was picking between a QB and a tight end, but I guess I'll have to make that decision in 10 picks time. So it's given me more time to think about it.
Would it be nice if someone had Baker Mayfield on their bench?
yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
My roster's unbalanced, so something's gonna have to change anyway. I'm gonna have to change some stuff around anyway.
Yeah,
but Jack
Josh,
and
by
Joe,
the way, Josh, by the way, it's put you on auto pick for when it comes back around. You might want to turn that off.
yeah, thanks, Jack. You've taken the Seahawks defense. Is there bias in that pick, or was that just a straight?
There's a whole bunch of bias in this pick. I would love to be able to actually
Okay.
cheer on my defense rather than the defense that the Seahawks are playing against. So yeah,
Fair
just
enough.
pick them. Make sure no one else does, and I need a defense, and they're all pretty similar in terms of projected kind of points. So
Yeah, fair enough. Joe, you took the Patriots defense. Again, was that a pick that you knew you were going to make? Was that a straightforward one in the end?
It was. I just I was looking through the defenses, and none of them particularly stood out. They were all roughly, in terms of projected and protected rank, they were all virtually the same. So I just decided that the one I like the most is the Patriots defense. In particular, I quite like Stephon Gilmore, their lockdown corner. So I hopefully they get some good interceptions and some defensive touchdowns would be great. And I like them as a defense, and it's just the pick I decided to make, I suppose.
There you go. Yeah. As we get into round number 13 or so, let's. We're getting to the later stages of the round, so I might as well ask you guys about Warwick Wolves and what you're doing for 2020. I know. Obviously, sports fairs in a few weeks' time, so you'll get a chance to meet a lot of freshers there. But I guess my first question is about, with COVID obviously affecting a lot of societies and a lot of sports teams at the moment. What does your year kind of look like next year? Is it still going to be, you're going to still try obviously get as many you're going to try and get practices safe under safe conditions? But what does your year kind of look like in terms of practices and matches for those who don't know about the Warwick Wolves football team?
So me and Joe were actually both on the exec, so we've had some information given to us, more so than what the team has found out. We plan on having our pre-season training camp as we do every year, which will begin kind of late September. And then we do plan on having training sessions throughout the year. And I believe we've scheduled some friendlies against other teams as well, or we're at least trying to schedule some friendlies because Bucks, so like the university like league setup thing, doesn't begin until term 2. So we'll just be playing some kind of like friendlies that don't mean anything until if it does.
Yeah, without, you don't have to go into specific detail on this, Joe, but how has it been preparing for this year? It obviously been a lot complicated. It's been a lot more complicated. But how's it been this time around? Being on exec and kind of preparing for it.
So far, in my experience of my role as community and welfare, a lot of I would have spent a lot of this before term 1 time planning events we were going to have and ways to raise funds and host charity events and things. And a lot of that has been quite difficult to do because sort of trying to make it build up a calendar, find out what events you can do when. A lot of them will be affected by COVID restrictions and will be planned a lot closer to the time rather than months in advance because they don't know what the situation will be then. So it's been a lot more difficult in that respect. Like, I'm sure we're still going to have plenty of time to host fundraising events, and we'll be able to safely, but it's all a bit more up in the air than I'd have liked to in terms of planning, really.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, you guys will obviously be at sports fairs. There's a lot of sports fairs in a few weeks, and I mean, you guys will, continue to bring in a lot of freshness for at least sort of socials. What kind of, I don't know, you can't, maybe you can say this, maybe you can't, but what have you kind of planned for what socials are going to look like in this COVID world? Like, is it going to be more virtual? I don't know if I mean, I don't know how far you have gone to planning this or what you're allowed to say, but how's planning that been for you guys?
As far as I'm concerned, I'm not sure on what socials we do actually have planned. Every Sunday we go and watch the NFL in the Clarendon, which is in Leamington. So I assume that can still go ahead as long as pubs stay open and stuff. So I assume that sort of social side can go ahead. But other than that, I don't think we've planned much really, because anything can happen. The government can shut things. We're not exactly sure what the university's policy is on a lot of things. So yeah. Jack,
are you slightly relieved? Is your liver slightly going to be a bit relieved for this year?
Yeah, my circle record isn't exactly brilliant when I go with the Wolves. So this is probably slightly better for my health.
Yeah, I think it's going to be the case for most people, to be honest, in terms of their in terms of drinking socials and stuff. So I mean, with this season obviously being so up in the air, how have you guys? I mean, obviously you guys are very close on socials and group chats and whatever. Has that been kind of important over this kind of period of not knowing what's going on and having that group chat and loads of people to talk to? Has that been a big help, this summer, instead of staying social and all that stuff? I don't know, Joe, you want to take that question? Or
yeah, well, I suppose in terms of like the social aspect, we've had a fantasy league within our year, and we've been able to sort of keep chatting about the year ahead and things. But as for the actual social aspect of the club, I know we've been a lot more focused on getting back the whole training and games thing. Part of the thing, we're all focused on that. Like, I'm sure whatever the restrictions are at the time, we'll be able to keep a social life going, even if it is under heavy restrictions or we have to follow guidelines. But in terms of what we've been talking about and planning, it's been more how the year ahead is going to work in terms of actually playing American football. And just, I think the social side just follows naturally when you play a sport together as a team, really.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's the same for us as well. It's obviously going to be weird, and it's going to be an interesting year, and we're going to still, we're going to try. I think everyone's going to try and make the best of the situation as it is. And with the draft, I mean, Joe, you've got your last pick to make. I mean, we can start kind of wrapping up this show. If you like, Alex, I mean, you've your whole roster's there now. Overall thoughts, overall reaction. Go ahead, just share.
Well, it started very brightly and has trickled away into rather a poor draft, in my opinion, from myself. I'm definitely going to have to hit the DMs and do some trades. And yeah, I'd say get back to me in maybe a week or so.
Yeah. Jack, what about yourself? This is your first. I mean, you and I in the same boat. First NFL drafts. So how did you feel your draft went?
I mean, I'm incredibly happy with how it's gone. I'm sure someone will tell me I've got a whole bunch of awful players who won't play and will get 0 points, but I think it looks good. So I'm quite happy for my first draft, and I don't feel like I need to do a lot of trading either. So,
Joe, same question. How do you feel about your roster?
I'm happy with the players. I mean, I'm looking through my team and I know all the players. I'm confident in the teams they play for. The only problem is I still feel, as I was earlier in the draft, very wide receiver heavy. So I think when it comes to trading, I might be looking to swap one or two wide receivers for a more standout or a strong backup running back for those bye weeks and in case of injuries.
Yeah. I look at my roster and it's also receiver heavy, so slightly. So I'm also probably gonna have to hunt for a good back, or use the waiver wire effectively as well. Yeah, with that draft coming to an end there, I think we are pretty good to wrap it up. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me, Joe, Alex, Jack. We've put your team socials in the video description, but if you've got individual social medias you want to plug, start with Joe. Do you want to plug them away, really?
No, I'm all good. I'm not really a big social media guy, but absolutely go and follow the Warwick Wolves. And if you're at the university listening to this and you haven't really got into a sport, really come and join us. Come and have a go at one of our taster sessions.
Yeah, Alex, do you have anything to plug, or same thing?
I mean, as the ComSec, I feel like I'm responsible for plugging our social media. So follow us on Instagram at Warwick Wolves. Like us on Facebook, Warwick Wolves. If you haven't played for us before, join our rookies page. Just type in Warwick Wolves rookies 2020/21. Try and join that, and I'll add you into it. Follow us on Twitter, which I think is Warwick Wolves as well, at Warwick Wolves. But yeah, all that good stuff. Yeah, just follow us on everything. You'll find us. If you find us on one, you'll find us on all of them. Yeah.
Yeah, Jack. I mean, you on both societies, but do you have anything individually to plug?
I mean, obviously follow the Wolves, but also as head of Raw's tech department, I suppose I should tell everyone that they should go follow Raw Tech on Twitter, Raw1251 Tech. It's just me posting memes. Go follow it, I guess.
Yeah, and as for me, I guess follow Raw Sports Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Next week we hope to do a Premier League preview show. I need to plan that, but we'd hope to, and we'd love to get a lot of people involved in that, talking about the Premier League coming up. And yeah, we're gonna do a lot more of these shows. We'll probably give some updates on this league as well. We'd love to, again, in conjunction with you guys, do some like updates, maybe like short Instagram clips or stuff like that to keep people updated. But that will do it for this draft show. It's been pretty fun. It's been good to have a lot of opinions and definitely kind of educate. I mean, I know it's good. It's been good for me to get educated about this draft, but I'm sure a lot of people as well. So thanks to everyone involved, and we